Okay, now you're going to learn about loops. Why do you need to use loops? You need to use loops when you want to repeat the same thing again and again and again, depending on how many times you want to repeat. So in C programming, there's 3 types of loops. So here you can see there's a for loop, there's a while loop, and there's a do while loop. So basically this is the syntax. You can see here the syntax. So it starts with a for. Okay, make sure it's small letters, and then you have a starting point. Alright, definitely when you do coding, you won't see something like this. It will be different. Later, we are going to see. So you have the starting point, and then you have a condition. Condition meaning until when you want the repetition to be done. So this is the condition to make it stop. Alright, and then finally you have the increment or decrement values, meaning if you start from 1, how do you go to number 2, meaning the second repetition. From number 2, how do you go to the third repetition? That is the increment. It's not necessarily you use increment. You can also use decrement. Decrement meaning how to go from -3 to -1, something like that. Okay, you can do either ways. And you have the curly braces, alright, and then inside the curly braces, this is your body. This is the body of the loop. So this is where you put whatever things that you want to repeat. If you have a statement that you don't want to repeat, don't put it inside the loop, put it outside. Okay, so can you see here we have a bracket. Inside the bracket we have 3 things, and to separate those items we have used a semicolon. Remember, this is the syntax that you need to follow. Do not put a comma here. It must be semicolon. And there's another type of loop. Another type of loop is a while loop. It's actually containing the same items. What you see here is the starting point. And then you have the condition. And then you have the body, and then you have increment or decrement. If you compare the while loop and the for loop, actually it's the same. The only difference is the syntax here. Previously we used for. Now because it is a while loop, we use while. But the other things are actually the same. The only difference is now we are putting it at different location. Okay, so that's the only difference. The items are still there. The third looping, we call it as do while loop. Okay, again it's the same thing. You have the starting point, you have the condition, and you have increment and decrement. And you also have whatever that you want to repeat. So you still have that 3 items, again at different places. Alright? And for a do while loop, you don't check first. Like in a while loop, you always check the condition first before going in. For a do while loop, you don't check first. Immediately you go in and do the first statement. Alright, then only you will check whether the condition is true or false. Okay, so these are the 3 types of loops that we are going to use in our coding. So make sure you are aware of the syntax, especially the curly braces, the semicolon, all right, all the semicolon, all right, and the items that we actually need to make the looping work.